in quadrant 1, which remember is this one here. But what if you start winding up in quadrant 2, 3, or 4? So it works out the same. You're still going to be matching this type of triangle and trying to figure out where does it fit in the system. So what do I mean by that? So let's take a look at pi over 6 again. So here's one where the angle is pi over 6. Now what would happen if I flipped this triangle? Right? What would happen if I took this triangle and I flipped it around the y-axis so that I'm now looking at a triangle like this? Right? If all I did is flip this triangle over here, this triangle and this triangle are the same triangle. They're just flipped. Now, before we talked about finding new radian measures. So let's just review that for a quick. So this is pi over 6. This is going to be 2 pi over 6. This is going to be 3 pi over 6, or pi over 2. When I go past this, we're going to go to 4 pi over 6, and then 5 pi over 6. So this whole thing here is going to be, let's do this in 5 pi over 6. That's going to be this whole angle here. Now what about this one here? Let's put this in blue so I can figure this angle out. What would this angle wind up being? Well, what's this? We know this is pi, right? So this whole thing needs to be pi. And I've taken 5/6 out getting to here. So this, therefore, has to be pi over 6. It's 5 pi over 6 plus pi over 6 is going to give me pi. Pi would be all the way over to here. So this is pi over 6 and this is pi over 6. And this is why we were working on earlier, how do I know what this angle measure is measured from 0? This whole thing measured from 0, starting here and going this way, would be 5 pi over 6. And then I can use that knowledge to figure out that the last sliver here would have to be pi over 6. So let's look at the same situation that we just did a moment ago, but let's put it in this quadrant now. So I know this is pi over 6. So last time when we dealt with that, we used this triangle knowledge to figure out that this was root 3 over 2, and then this was a half, and this was point P. So if I'm dealing with this as point P, then I know this y distance is still a half. Okay? So let's just write that down. So for point, let's call this 2, it's going to be something, comma, 1/2. Now I need to figure out what this is. Well, last time, when we were dealing with this triangle, this was root 3 over 2. So if this distance here is root 3 over 2, then that distance can't be root 3 over 2 because I'm going in the opposite direction. So we call that negative root 3 over 2. And that's how we write it here. This is going to be negative root 3 over 2. So that's how we figure that one out. It would be the same process if you go around to the rest of the unit circles. So let's take a quick jump into some of those other ones, and I'll do those quickly. So if I had pi over 6 here, so this distance here is going to be pi over 6. What would that coordinate for P be? Well, this coordinate for P is going to be the same thing. This is still going to be a half. This is still going to be root 3 over 2. Let's make that look like a square root. This is still in the negative x direction, so that's negative. I'm now in the negative y direction, so this is a negative as well. So for this P, the coordinate is negative 1/2, comma, root 3 over 2. Let's make that negative more obvious. So that's the situation I'm dealing with. And then lastly, if we go to quadrant 4, same idea again. I don't like that. It's way too far off. This angle here is still going to be pi over 6, and this is still going to be 1/2, and this distance here is still going to be root 3 over 2. This one, however, is positive now because I'm going back in the positive direction, but the y is still going to be negative because I'm still going down. So in the end, this is going to be root 3 over 2, comma 1/2. Okay? So it's all good to go. So that's all. That's a unit circle in a nutshell. So we're going to go on, take a look at page 186. There's some lovely little reminders on everything we've just been discussing. They're good to reference when you're working. And you'll see that they've been nice, and they give us some of the common unit measures when you're working your way through. So you can reference this when you're trying to solve some of the problems. So they have pi over 4 system here, right? 0, pi over 4, pi over 2, 3 pi over 4, right? 1, 2, 3, that's where the top number comes from. And over here, we're counting the pi over 6, right? Pi over 6, 1, this is the first angle, so it's 1 pi over 6. Next one is 2 pi over 6. Remember that 2 over 6 is the same as 1 over 3, so that's why this angle here is pi over 3. If you go up and look back at the triangle, this would be our pi over 6. This would be our pi over 3. Pi over 6 is half of pi over 3, and so are the angles, so it all makes sense. So that's all that we're doing on that today. You'll be given your homework in class, so let's get cracking on that and see what we can do. Good luck.